I'm Hokey Joker.
Bedroom.
Green Lantern.
And welcome to Just Us Bros Podcast.
There, Hugo, I understand. All those years caged up in here, why, you've probably never even seen your own face in the mirror, have you? Here.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Just Us Bros Podcast. And over the last week, we have seen the sequel to the 2019 hit Joker. As always, I'm Hokey Joker.
I'm Scooby Drooby Drew. That hurt so much to say.
I'm Green Lantern.
Flash Man.
And with the return of Joaquin Phoenix and the addition of Lady Gaga, we got a new musical spin on the dark and dreary Taxi Driver-esque movie that shows the dark parts of society. So, real quick, going into the movie, knowing it was a musical, what did you guys think? Bat Drew, before just going in, what were your expectations?
Going in, I tried not to have any expectations for this movie, knowing that it was a musical was not going to bother me. So I tried to go in with an open mind, and that's what I did.
I'm of the same mind. I tried to go in it without caring that it was a musical because I knew who was in it, and I knew that both Gaga and Phoenix could both sing. So I really just tried to be open-minded as much as possible.
I didn't know it was a musical. I knew that it was going to have musical aspects, but I didn't know it was a musical. But I honestly, just it being a sequel movie and my feelings on the first one, I didn't have high expectations going in.
And going in with all that, I felt like it was going to be a chore to go just watch it. Yeah, I was like, prove me wrong. My expectations are low, but prove me wrong. There's nowhere to go but up. And that's my transition to, did it go up? Absolutely not. It was dog shit.
That's what she said.
It was a terrible movie.
In your opinion?
And yes, in your opinion, and that's why movies are subjective. Oh, goodness.
The people who like this movie need to be checked into a mental hospital like Arthur.
So tell us your line of thinking. Like from beginning, is this a spoiler review or spoiler-free review?
I'm going to say spoiler review.
I don't think we're gonna have to go piece by piece everything that happened in the movie. Just what we felt about each part. And like, I don't think it has to be a this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. What made you call it a shit show? At what point did you realize it and give up on it?
I mean, start off like you would go to the movies for the willing suspension of disbelief. Why are you laughing?
What was that?
What? I don't know.
It sounded like a sex robot.
When you go to movies, you have this willing suspension of disbelief, and when he's in the jail or Arkham, they're like, "Hey, we know you're in jail for murdering 5 people, but we're gonna like let you hang out in the guard stand. We're gonna let you do this. You're a high profile person. We're gonna give you all these freebies. Hey, we're gonna take you to a lower security wing to sing, and then once you get used to it, you're gonna try to escape, and we're not gonna like really do anything about it. And then just the music. I can appreciate the fact they tried to make the musicals a break from reality, but there was too long. It was a courtroom drama, and it was just kind of boring until like when he's in the courtroom, they find him guilty, and the courtroom blows up, and you're like, oh, finally something's gonna happen. And he just runs his old complex, and they're like, oh, you're under arrest, and they get shanked and died. Like, well, this movie did not need to be made. It was fine with the ambiguous ending of the first one.
So your argument for this movie being horrible is because it did not live up to what your expectations of it to be was, right?
I know my expectations were low, but it's like this was such a.
But this wasn't a movie that you thought it was going to be. That's why you didn't like it, right?
No, it was what I thought it was going to be. A lot of musical numbers. I was wondering how it was going to end, but like that was terrible.
So you knew it was going to be a court drama.
Yeah, I mean, you saw courtroom things going on in there, but just the whole willing suspense, like it just too much crap went on with it. I didn't like it. If it didn't have the musical parts in it, it would be 30, 40 minutes shorter and would make a lot more sense. Like the whole, we're going to make a mountain musical. What did that have to do with anything? I don't know. that wasn't Harley Quinn. That was Lady Gaga. Let's not argue with that. Like they called her Lee, and the only time they called her Harleen Quinzel was when his lawyer was like, "She's." So then, and this isn't a reason I hated it, but I did notice that the power dynamic shifted because normally it's Joker's like manipulates Harley Quinn to love him, and she's like a sick puppy dog, like always wanting to be around him. But this one, she's the manipulative one. Um, and just the whole like fact that he like gets shanked and died at the end, like,
Well, he passed the torch, not
okay,
willingly, but
okay, but on that, I saw like speculation that like the person who shanked him like carved his face, like that's a nod to Heath Ledger. Don't
yeah,
fucking the Dark Knight with this.
it's a nod. It's a nod to that.
When you're this bad, you hold your head down in shame and you keep moving and don't look at anybody. That's my opinion. But I will go on a
Oh,
rant later.
okay, I think it's safe to say Haha Land here thinks this is complete dog shit.
I'm pretty sure Luffy could make a better movie than that.
I thought you were gonna say it's shit.
Probably.
Probably.
Well, I mostly agree with Toki Joker, Haha Land. Going into it with low, I don't want to say low expectations, no expectations really. In my mind, honestly, I'd already made up that Lady Gaga was not going to be as good as um, Margot Robbie, but I also understood she was playing a different version of Harley, just as Joaquin was playing a different version of the Joker. I think the ambiguous ending of the first Joker was great. I don't think they needed to make a sequel, honestly. I think they were just trying to capitalize on money because of the success of the first one. I think the first one did over $1 billion.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they? But story wise, I think it had a good ending. Um, this one I felt like it was a crossover of like a Hannibal Lecter movie, like he's in jail and they're interviewing him, talking about things in the beginning, and then like you said, then it turned into like a musical halfway through, and then it turned into an episode of Law and Order. And again, I don't think that's been done in a quote unquote superhero movie. I know this is not your traditional superhero movie. I did like how that went. The musical stuff I could have gone with or without. Um, Also, to your point, I don't like how Harley seemed to be manipulating him, and I feel like this version of Joker, like he's already been established that he's not the smartest Joker, that he kind of is sick and just lashing out because he's sick. But I felt they made him really dumb and really stupid and really like easy to manipulate. And Harley obviously manipulated him, tried to get him to be someone that we thought he was, but apparently he wasn't. Um, all
Or
that being said, all that being said, I was with the movie up to the point where the courtroom blew up and Joker gets out, gets away with those thugs. To me, I think it should have ended there. I think it should have been an ambiguous ending again there. Don't wrap up the story with Harley. I think it should have ended with him with the random jokers that broke him out and like, oh, we got him, and they would be his thugs, and either he went on to create a criminal empire or he died. We don't know. We don't know what happened. I think the whole last part with Harley being on the steps, him going up there, and her basically being like, "You're not who I thought you were. Don't ever talk to me. I'm leaving." And then the police showing up and arresting him again, and he ends up back in jail where he started. That's where the movie lost me. The last what 5 minutes of the movie completely I started here, the whole movie. I was here, kind of same baseline. The last 5 minutes put me down here. And then him getting shanked at the end was the icing on the cake. I understand that they wanted to kill off Arthur Fleck and pass the torch, but I was just disappointed. And that's how I left the movie. I wanted to like it, but I just left very disappointed. And I know I said a lot, but
not as much as me though.
I might be on the boat with you a little bit. Um, it was a Gaga movie. I mean, I knew that seeing the name. I mean, she said maybe what 30 words in the entire movie and sang the other 280. I mean, if you think about it, um, the fact that it was a musical didn't bother me, but the story should have matched the musical. if that makes any sense. I'm with Green Lantern. Like the end of the movie, how did he know she was going to be on the stairs? Was that a random coincidence?
I
How the
mean,
hell did the cops know where he was going to be? Was that a coincidence, or did she set him up? Did she have him shanked in prison because she wanted something newer and crazier?
well, Josh, she did say she bought the apartment complex where he lived at, or moved in there.
Yeah, but what were the chances, realistically, of her being on the stairs, especially after having that cut scene where she was going to kill herself?
Mm-hmm.
Which, if I had to listen to him crying and pouting, I probably would too. If I'm being honest, it was
I like
over.
I like that conspiracy part. I'd like to explore that later on. I'd like to come back to that.
Overall, I just don't think it was a needed movie. It wasn't a horrible movie per se, but it was not a DC Joker movie. We'll dive deeper later, but that's kind of where I'm at on it at the moment.
Well, honorable mention. What did your wife say that you can add to this?
She fucking hated it. She absolutely hated it. Hold on, I took notes, so I got this right. It was a musical, bullshit. Basically, a Lady Gaga movie. Had her up until the part where he escaped and then got recaptured, went back to prison. And then how the hell did they know where he was? So I mean, she even got lost, and she's not a comic book fan or anything. She went in to see Gaga. She got what she wanted, seeing Gaga. She even thought the ending was horrible, and it was.
We're gonna say three and a half of us don't like it. So, Bat
Well,
Drew,
let me. Ashley also went and saw it with us, and she was actually excited for the movie because she really liked the first one, and she really likes Lady Gaga, and she's on the same lines of thinking as us. She thinks that the story, and she's not huge into comic books, but she does like Batman and she likes the Joker.
does like the Joker. She has told me that in person. Yeah,
She does like the Joker, and her opinion was that the Joker for this movie was written differently than the first movie, and she thinks Joaquin did a great job playing the character that was written, and also Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga played a great job for the character that was written. However, the character that was written was completely wrong.
and just a side note, I'm pretty sure Ashley has told me that her brother got like a Joker action figure, and she beat him up and took the Joker action figure. That's why she likes. That's how I know she's a Joker fan. Can you confirm or deny that?
Something, it was either a Batman or a Joker action figure.
Okay.
One got one, the other got the other, and she took the one, so she had both.
Okay. Okay, Bat Drew, we're down in the dumps of Arkham. Please get us out. What's your opinion?
Well, get your popcorn ready because I think I'm about to give a speech here. Well, I think we can all agree when we first saw the first movie, we, like I said, had no expectations going into it what it was going to be. But I think everyone that I've talked to here and just anywhere, the first movie they came out of that and they enjoyed the hell out of it. This one, I'll just start by saying, the comic book fan in me, to the most extent, like with you guys, was up with this movie until the courtroom bombing, and then it kind of just fell apart. But the movie enjoyer in me, um, after sitting on watching this movie, I guess we watched this 4 days ago, 3 days ago. I actually do like the entire movie as a whole. Now, I'll explain it like this, because when I saw Joker, 2019 Joker, that was to me a movie based on DC characters, definitely not, your crazy Gotham City Joker going up against Batman, because obviously we only saw Bruce Wayne. We didn't even see, I don't think, any other supporting characters, even that movie, Commissioner Gordon or Harvey or anything like that. But I came out of that movie thinking it was more of a movie about mental health issues and how it's dealt with in society and whatnot. And yeah, definitely the 2019 movie, that was a Joker's story told from his point where he was, I guess you would say, protagonist of that story, but he was the main focal point, and we saw it through his like his perspective. For Folie, to kind of give a point to where you guys were like, superhero was weakened in this. Arthur Fleck seemed like he was flawed and lost and more confused and weakened in this movie. To me, what going back and watching, I think it was kind of, I felt like it was more not told from his point of view this time, but more of like Joker would have been a first person story. Joker probably do for him would have been like a third person story where we're seeing him and seeing how his mental issues are stemming. And like every time a musical piece cut, like for Joker, if like somebody was saying something they didn't agree with or didn't like or didn't want to hear, he was zoning out, and that's when the musical aspects took part. So I was seeing that as the musical is him. That's how we know that we're not in reality anymore. We're in, I guess, his head or whatever. But the difference, I think, the biggest difference between these two movies is they were not told through the same point of view, and a lot of people, I feel like, were going into this movie not like going into like, okay, I I have no expectations. I'm just gonna watch this to try and enjoy it. But they didn't technically get what they thought was going to be a continuation of the first one, which it really kind of was not. But also the fact that it's to me the movie enthusiast in me was still like this is still a movie about mental health issues and how society deals with them and how people are dealing with them and what they do to cope or not cope. But at the same time, it is based off of DC character movies or DC. It is based off of characters from DC Comics. At some point, you've got to give a little bit more to that because it could have been a great two movie series if you just didn't put Joker in the title and just called it something like Psychopath or whatever. But also going back to the comic book aspects of this movie that I did enjoy, I guess, but they didn't. It was more of a wink and a nod to the fans and not really a deep dive into a comic book movie per se. Is the courtroom aspect where the bomb blew up and like Harvey, half of his face is
I was
damage from the bomb.
obliteration on that. I was looking for that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that though because it looked like he had a little boo boo right here and that was it.
Saying, yeah, yeah.
I wanted him
But
to be more maimed for Two Face.
but also like I said, that would be like just a wink and a nod for based on characters out of DC Comics or whatever. It didn't even say DC Comics, it just said DC. So I was like, out of Washington DC, of course they're all crazy. But anywho, the addition of Harley Lee Quinzel in this really for me for the comic book movie fan in me wanted to be like, okay, this is gonna be like everyone was saying, them riding off into the sunset, causing chaos, just going balls to the wall, Bonnie and Clyde. And then when that did not happen, the comic book fan in me was like, the fuck is this, man? But again, like I was so torn with this movie because I was like, the comic book guy in me is like, I hate this ending. Like everyone about said, when shit hit the fan, he went back to jail and he was done for. I was like, oh. But the movie enthusiast in me, it was like, I don't like that it ended like this, but I think that the sequel that did not need to happen, I think that that's an okay ending. Still, so many things I would have changed, but for what we got, even though we didn't need to get this, I actually enjoyed it. Yes,
I
The
the
think
movie
that was the
goer.
only way to deal with Arthur Fleck's story was to have him offed.
So I'm also going to point out the other suspension of disbelief. Lady Gaga like literally committed arson and set the inside of the prison on fire, and she gets to voluntarily check out. How are you not arrested for arson in that case? Just
Well, they
gonna
didn't know who did it. Nobody saw her do it except for the audience.
And also that was it. That was a made up story that I think she told to Joker because obviously they're not going to give an arsonist a pack of cigarettes and matches. So
Right.
that's again her manipulation of the situation.
so. But going back to what you said about it did show mental health, but like of all the musical numbers, it was a lot of him because it was his going back and forth. It was very inconsistent from the first movie. Like first movie, he thought everyone was out to get him. He was an unreliable narrator. That relationship with Zazie Beats like didn't really exist. But this one now he's fantasizing about dance numbers and white coats. That's a big jump.
Well, he met Harley
Yeah.
and she put the music in him.
Yeah, and it's not really a big jump for one piece. I would say when he did I guess when either he was talking to his lawyer or they did the in jail interview when he said, "What do you remember about that night where he offed Murray?" The music. I remember the music. So just like the first one, music was a big piece of this, but also because we couldn't tell when and where he was having his fantasies in the first movie, I think that's why I like that one so much better. Because in this one, oh, he's cutting away to a musical. That's us literally saying, "Oh yeah, this part isn't real. This stuff isn't happening." Like them singing and dancing and then running towards the gates to their fans. That part, I guess, really may not have happened because they were singing.
No, it did because they pointed out it was on the newspaper that during the interview. So it did happen in real life, supposedly.
Yeah, that whole scene did happen.
Yeah.
But was
And
that newspaper article real though? Because there was also a newspaper article in the trailer that did not make it in the movie where it says Joker is free on all charges.
but this was like actually with other people interacting with said paper, like, who's this? Who's this? Like on the paper. I think the one burning question I have, and I'll give my answer right away for this. Does the Joker personality actually exist, or was it all Arthur Fleck? And I think, and my argument is the Joker personality, the split personality, does exist. Again, Batman and Joker, all Batman is because about the mask we wear. Like the Joker is a mask. Just like Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different people, the Joker and Arthur Fleck are two different people. And the whole reason he said he wasn't the Joker and the Joker doesn't exist was to see if Lady Gaga actually liked him as a person, Arthur Fleck, or if she liked the personality of the Joker.
I just want to jump in right there and be like, I don't think it was to see if she liked him or not, but I think it was more so, like you were saying, Joker existed within Arthur Fleck. But I'm more inclined to say that Joker would not exist with him taking his medication. And then when he was introduced to Lee, the idea of either the fantasy of Lee or he just reality, she was like, stop taking your meds. Because she knew that him on meds would be Arthur Fleck, him without his meds is the Joker, which also brings me to a good point that I think Ashley brought this up. I think when he gets arrested and they pull him back to the or not arrested again, but when they pull him, the three guards pull him back to the locker room and the showers, I think they were force feeding him his medicine again, and that's why, like literally, it feels like boom, we changed the persona from Joker back to Arthur Fleck.
Well, actually, what a lot of people are saying on the interwebs was is not as nice as that.
Oh yeah, a Billy Club up the ass probably would change your.
Yeah, that's what they're saying happened.
Well, I was thinking too, but I was also thinking, why?
And did they beat the Joker out of him?
I kind of,
I mean,
yeah,
that's how I interpreted it.
I think they definitely abused him, but the medicine thing makes sense. Like
It does.
he wasn't taking the medicine. I do think so on the whole mental health piece of everything. I kind of disagree and agree with you, Haha Land. Um, I don't think there's a split personality. I think you've got Arthur, who was crazy, traumatized by the things that happened, and he is who he is. He is the Joker. Arthur is the Joker. The Joker is Arthur. I don't think it's two separate personalities. I think Arthur is the Joker. He has that criminal, that murderous intent. He has the craziness.
Got that dog.
He's got all that. And to what Bat Drew was saying about the meds, when he went to jail, they got him on this medicine, which Arthur probably should have been on his entire life, and none of this would have ever happened if he was properly seen, properly counseled, properly medicated if that's what they decided needed to happen from the mental health standpoint. I don't think the Joker personality or whatever you want to call it, I don't think it was a different personality. I think that was Arthur mentally ill. I don't think he would have done the things that he did. I think
So do
his
you
life would
think?
have been completely different.
So you think the medicine just controlled the
Joker?
crazy
Like,
of him?
I think the medicine suppressed the crazy, suppressed the spiraling out of control to want to, oh, the only way to get revenge, the only way to feel better is to hurt the people that hurt me or to kill the people that I think hurt me. I mean, I definitely think there was some schizophrenia there. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I have no idea what he actually would have been diagnosed with. But I think there was multiple things there that probably could have been controlled with counseling and medication. And then, like you said, when Harley told him to stop taking the medicine, which he also knew it subconsciously because he stopped taking the medicine before she even told him to. I think he knew that he was going to be able to be the other person that they wanted him to be. But I don't think it's multiple personalities. I think it was in him all the time, and just his true intent was suppressed by the medication.
But just like any other time, the second you put that mask on, you feel yourself becoming someone else. Because as soon as you paint your face up, because last Halloween, three of us went as the Joker. How did you feel when you put that face paint on? Did you feel
Well, when two of us put the face paint on, we felt very mischievous and ready to drink. One of us only had a mask. Lame.
Yeah, but I also painted my face white like 50 other times before then, so I have experience in the whole thing.
Well, we were also dressing up as a character and trying to get into character.
Yeah.
I will say another thing that I noticed with this movie is I didn't sympathize with him as much. Um, the first movie, everything that happened to him and then everything he did, I almost, like Batdrew said, he's the protagonist of the movie. I mean, he's still a bad guy, but he's the protagonist of the movie. We saw him abused, we saw him bullied, we saw him mistreated. We found out about his past, things his mother had done, um, and we sympathized with him. And when he shot Robert De Niro, I was like, yeah. In this movie,
Jinx a cat? Gonna shoot Jinx a cat?
in this movie, I sympathized with him twice. The first time I sympathized with him was when he was in the courtroom and the little person was testifying. The
Mr.
guy what was his name?
Puddles.
Mr. Puddles. When Mr. Puddles was
Gary.
testifying, I remembered, yes, Mr. Puddles was scared to death of him. But in my head, the whole thing I'm wanting to say as he's talking is, but he let you live. He chose to kill those guys, but he liked you enough to let you live. And then he even said, no, I like you. And he's like, but he's all messed up. So we saw the other side of Mr. Puddles, what happened, that he was basically tortured, even though he got to live. But that was the first time I sympathized with him in the movie. It was like, oh, but he let you live. Could have killed you. He could have very easily killed you. So I sympathized with him then. And then I also sympathized with him when the guards took him back and did whatever they did to him. I was like, I really hope he kills I was hoping he was going to kill the guards in that scene. I was also hoping when he went back, stood on the tables in the prison, and there was kind of almost a riot type thing. I was hoping that was going to be a riot and the guards were going to get what they deserved at that time.
Oh, when
But yes, but they didn't. So, but the first movie, I remember sympathizing like everything that happened. I'm like, oh, I feel bad for this guy. Oh man, I feel horrible. I didn't feel that in this movie, not at all. Well, except for those two times that I mentioned. When he got shanked, I didn't feel bad whatsoever because he should have never gone back to prison.
I think that's just the tonal shift for the movie is the first movie you do see that you like, oh, he got jumped and got wrecked. His boss is gonna fire him. He's getting bullied in the subway. Like the whole first movie made you uncomfortable to be like, this guy's really messed up. When he's like the first scene where he's just laughing for like 90 seconds straight in a psychiatrist's office, you're like, that movie made you uncomfortable. But you saw him like rise to power, and he's just sort of back to where he started the first movie, but never really goes up anywhere. Like there was not enough action or anything to like really warrant this movie. It was just so tonally different. Yeah, the first one may have made you depressed, but it was also like, look how crazy and messed up that is. This one's just like, here, I guess this is what happens. Like it had no message.
Well, again, I think to agree to some of
Okay.
the points that, to agree to some of the points that y'all made here. In the first movie, he was definitely a protagonist, and you wanted to root for him. And in this one, perfect example when they interviewed Gary Puddles, and you're seeing all of the actions from the first movie in like a third person or a different person's perspective. It's not painting him as the hero anymore. It's not painting him as justified for being crazy, which again, like I said, the movie enthusiast in me was like, that makes sense for this movie, but also at the same time, they kind of marketed this movie as not a movie where we're going to go into this and be like, boom, reality check. He's not the hero, the anti-hero, the savior that we need from like that you saw from the first movie. It's more like, no, he's really mentally ill, y'all. Here, like, let's look at this. Look at what he did and all these things he did, and how it's not right what he was doing. But also, too, we'll come back to me when I catch my thought again because it just jumped out of my head.
4 days in now, thinking about it, the musical aspect of me loves their songs because I know, again, they're both wonderful singers. I mean, play Johnny Cash for God's sake.
Yeah.
They're great singers. It was just tonally odd for what it was.
And I'll say this. I think this might have been a thing for it. Is like the first movie, I'm assuming, was primarily watched by gentlemen of like us in our age bracket. And then they're like, let's expand our audience. Oh my God, everyone loved Lady Gaga and A Star Was Born. Everybody like, oh, we got to get a song. Let's put her in there. And then they ruined it. But I think from the story of the movie, at the end of the first one, riots are breaking out in Gotham. The streets are lined with fire and blood. There is an uprising. Where did that go?
Well, it was 2 years later.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
But there's still like there's no like even if it disappeared, there's still some faction that would be.
Well, I think that's who we saw breaking out of
the car bomb,
yeah.
and the two guys that picked him up and took him somewhere, and the made-for-TV movie that was apparently pretty bad.
Yeah, they mentioned so much stuff in there.
Is that what the animated was at the beginning of the movie?
Probably part of what it was, yeah.
Because I would have watched the entire movie had it been animated like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I did like some of the small bit of humorous aspects that were in it. I mean, he told a couple off-color jokes that kind of were funny, even though the guards were like, "That's not funny." They were kind of funny, in the context that he was doing them. And I did laugh out loud when he kept talking about the movie. He's like, "Was the movie really bad?" And no, and then he's in court, and they're like, "I had to watch that horrible TV movie," and he turns around and looks at Harley. He's like, she's like, "No."
She's like, "No."
I'm like, that. I liked that. I liked that part. I thought that was funny. I thought that was wholesome. And then the accent that he did when he was representing himself, he all of a sudden gets Southern gentleman.
No,
and then British.
Is that your really name? Is that really your name?
Is that really your name? Is it really? Is it really your name? Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Like actually during that scene, I was like, you know what? We're getting Joker right here. Like he's about to be unserious in a super serious situation, but then it kind of dissipated like immediately. So
yeah,
the comic book nerd in me was like, oh shit, this is getting real now. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, just a tease. Never mind.
I felt like this movie had like a lot of like, we're gonna do this. It's gonna like, where's the payoff? Like, what mountain was Lady Gaga singing about? They're gonna build a mountain. What?
Take over Gotham?
But you never really saw it. It sort of felt like.
I think that was just part of their fantasy, because even she said, all we had together was a fantasy, and now you don't believe it anymore. So now we have nothing.
Yeah, but if we're gonna delve into the world of like, oh, here's our fantasy to build this mountain. Okay, if we're in this fantasy world, show us the mountain that you're gonna build in this fantasy. And they did.
I remember what I was gonna say now. I think we live in a society where we are now going into movies where we need, okay, this happened in this scene. I need to know exactly logically how this happened, or everything needs to make sense to us. But
Because
I don't think that they wanted, yeah, because of, I don't think that this movie cared to do that, because it also wanted you to be like, well, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. Again, because the movie it was trying to be was, actually, I think this movie was basically trying to retell the first movie, but from a different perspective to try to show, it was like a narrative for the first movie to be like, no, you shouldn't like that, all the things the character did in the first movie.
Yeah.
It was kind of more like trying to show society, like really be like, hey, no, this is not good. And
by no means is he a hero in any shape or form. I think we all agree. But
we're not arguing that he's a hero and we're rooting for him from this movie. But to watch this movie after seeing the first one, we're still thinking about a character in a movie that we're like, yeah, cool. And they're trying to make it very, very real about the mental health issue and how we should not support it. But okay, that's cool. But the first movie, you pretty much made it to where we're supporting at least this character's flawed identity and whatnot. And it kind of was like, I'm not going to say a slap in the face of the people, but it was kind of more like holding up the, I guess, proverbial mirror, being like, no, don't like this. Which that's kind of a dumb thing to do for a company that wants to make a movie and be like, we want you to watch this, but we also want you to be like, hey, don't don't root for this guy, even though
So
you've already built up that you
That
want
would
to
be
root
like
for this guy in
that
the
that would be
first
like
movie.
Deadpool 3 coming out and being like, yeah, Deadpool shouldn't have killed those people in the first two movies. Here's why, and preaching to us. I mean, it's kind of the same because
Pretty much exactly what happened. Yeah.
yeah,
Which
like
again, like I said, this movie did not need to exist, but since it existed, I take it for with a grain of salt. I like what happened in the movie, and I like the pairing, but also the way it was portrayed and put out. I don't think
It
that
was
the
the
general
rhythm.
audience was gonna mesh with this, and
let's
it didn't work.
feel like that we're getting I've been saying this for a while now. We're getting to like like imagine uh DC movies before Mr. Gunn came in as like a toothpaste tube. But I think we're at like that last little bit of the tube where you're squeezing it, it's pooping out all the crap. I feel like we're getting close to that. But
Well, which was weird too, because I think I saw somewhere where Gunn tweeted that Joker is part of the DCU, but it's not part of my vision or something. And now when it came out, oh, Joker was its own thing before I got the helm of the studio, and I had no touch about it. Maybe after the reviews came out or something.
so one line that was said in the first movie to Murray, and the last words that Arthur Fleck heard was, "You get what you effing deserve." Did do you think Arthur Fleck got what he deserved?
Yes.
in the karmic aspect, yes. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, karma, yes.
In the humanity
No.
person, in the humanity stance, no, he should have been like his lawyer was trying to do, put him in a mental hospital, not Arkham Mental Hospital, which
But I think he should have had a better law defense too, criminal defense. I mean, basing the whole thing on, well, the Joker did it. This is Arthur. They're separate. No, just say he's schizophrenic. He's had an abusive childhood. He doesn't know reality from make believe. Use that as the defense, not, oh,
which
it was his
Yeah.
other personality.
which
Well,
also
Because it still was
too,
him. Regardless of whether
yeah,
it was his personality, it was still him. He did it.
Yeah.
there were also points in the movie where I was thinking that he was actually going to win his case because of all of the stories that were told, and they're like, oh, he actually let this dude live, but oh, he killed that guy because he was an abuser. He killed those other guys because they were being mad at him, and that guy in the courtroom that attacked him when before he was Joker, when he was just laughing because he couldn't laugh. I mean, when he was laughing because he has it. Also, what happened to the issue with his chronic laughing? It only came up like sporadically.
He only did it a couple times this movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally different.
And the fake one in the damn patrol car as he was preparing to be on the screen.
Yeah.
That one was kind of annoying to me.
Like him
but yeah,
faking it.
So
I really did at one point think that he was actually going to win his case, and that was going to be the twist of the movie. And then
Yeah.
people were going to riot, and then obviously something like the car bomb would happen, and then that's when they were going to ride up in the sunset, being crazy. That would have been a based off of DC characters movie right there.
Yeah.
But that's not what we got, and that's not what happened.
And I would have been okay if the car bomb was Harley breaking him out. Like, we think she's leaving because she's given up on him, but no, she's leaving because she's given up on the court system. Now she's ready to take it into her own hands, blow up the courthouse, get him out again, right off into the sunset, causing mayhem. But that's not what happened.
and well, what about the audience? Did the audience get what they effing deserve?
Which audience?
The viewer of the audience, because that's a big message of you get what you deserve.
you like musicals, yeah, you got what you got. I guess.
I don't think they did. I think this is. I know this wasn't intentional, but I'm viewing this as Warner Brothers saying, "Oh, you've hated all of our movies. Well, here's a big stinker that you deserve because you keep complaining about the crap we put out." Well,
I think that's a huge stretch. I don't think they were thinking that right there.
no,
I
but
mean,
that's take it.
right now the numbers are the Flash is beating Folie overall so far.
By sales or by reviews?
All.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Take that how you.
comic book fan, and regular movie enthusiast in me, that movie was fucking
I've seen
great.
worse.
I liked Flash.
It was great. I
I
liked
did
it.
too.
Again, it had flaws in it, but I enjoyed the movie overall.
Yeah,
It made me fucking cry.
Yeah.
but I'm about to say something really funny and messed up a little bit.
You're the one editing.
Yeah, well, would you have enjoyed the Flash? But would you have still enjoyed the Flash if Ezra Miller was in a courtroom?
Well, they did that on the TV
I mean,
show
that would
already.
just be true TV at that point, wouldn't it?
Two other things I wanted to touch base on. Overall, Lady Gaga as Harley, as the character that was written, do you think she did a good job for the character that was written? I'm not saying as a good Harley. I'm saying as the Harley that was written for this movie. Did she do a good job?
I think so.
I don't think they gave her enough backstory for it to really matter to me. It just seemed like she was crazy the fact that she wanted to get to know a mentally ill person.
But it's
Again,
almost to the point of like the serial killers in jail that the women or men probably too, but they write the letters because he mentioned, why didn't you write me a letter? She took it a step further. She checked herself into the asylum that he was at for the chance to meet him. But there's been multiple times where there's murderers that have these women that fall in love with them. But to that point, what if the murderer confessed, I didn't really kill anybody. I just took the fall for it. Would they still be in love with that murder? And I think that's kind of what I think she was in love with the idea of the things that he did because she was also mentally disturbed.
I I didn't think she was. I thought she was a bitch in the movie. And I'm not sure.
I agree with that.
I'm not
I
sure.
agree with that.
I'm not sure if we're supposed to like her or not. So I don't really care. Like because you want to be
Again, I think we live in a society where we're going to movies and we're like, okay, we're supposed to care about this character. We're supposed to hate this character. I don't think this was a movie where you're supposed to care nor hate a certain character. And I think, as Jill was saying, the way she was written, the character that she was written about, she played it perfectly as, the fanatic girlfriend that is romanticizing the idea that maybe she saw that he was in that fantasy land as Joker, like that was his face paint to turn him into something else. And that's why she wanted to go see him. She knows that as long as he has that fantasy, she has somebody else that can fantasize and go crazy with her. But then she realized, oh, wait, crap. I don't want to face the fact that I'm really crazy too. You just realize that, yeah, you're not Joker, you're just Arthur Fleck and you did bad things. No, we had a fantasy and we don't have that anymore. I don't want to be with you now. Blah, 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 blah. Start singing. Because you're saying things I don't want to hear. So she went into her fantasy world singing.
And I agree with that. I think she did a good job playing the character that was written. I think going into the fantasy world singing, I think that was all fine and dandy. I don't like the way that she manipulated Joker. I think that was more of a writing mistake. I don't like the way that it ended with her leaving him, but I understand it, like what you're saying, Bat Drew. Like the fantasy's dead, and she doesn't want to deal with reality, so she walks away from it. But I hated her in that scene just because she put him through all this crap. He gets out of jail. She basically like, no, I don't want you anymore. And then he just like gives up and goes back to jail. Like
Yeah.
the realist in me is like, that sucks. So I guess that's the third time I sympathize with him. I guess I would have to say I sympathize
Maybe
with
a
him
little,
there.
yeah.
to be that point, like, okay, car bomb breaks off. He's escaped. He's an escaped convict now. Like, and she runs up to her, like, yeah, you're not a criminal anymore. Honey, he is literally on the run from the cops. At this point, it's no longer a fantasy. It is real life.
And he still did what he did. He still killed six
Yeah.
people
So what
and
difference-
incited riots that killed more people.
But I think the fact that she had to face the fact of accountability, she was like, oh no, I don't like you anymore. That's not cool. Let's be done.
she would love to play GTA. That's a fantasy. Find the best GTA player online. You killed how many hookers? Okay, I love you. Fantasy, right?
Anyway,
Anyway,
Anywho,
what was the
what
second
was your
point.
second?
Do you think when she told him she was pregnant, was she really pregnant, or was she just
No,
making that up to manipulate him?
manipulation.
fantasy?
That
Because they
to
kind of
me,
just
I
didn't
just
say
I
anything
don't
else about
know.
it.
That's it.
I
That's where
really,
it
I
ended.
really, I really think that part was a fantasy, but also I think him hearing her say that to him was a fantasy too, because the part that I could not believe is regardless of her situation of her being in the prison or not, why would any guard let her into
I was gonna bring
the
up that scene.
Yeah.
the hole that he was in, especially not patting him down or patting her down, and she has makeup
Yeah,
that she applied to him. Like that part was the part where I actually had to stop and go back and be like, what guard would let that happen, knowing what he's done, even if she's not certifiably certifiably crazy at this point? What
but
guard
they
is still going
weren't.
to do that?
It wasn't a musical number during that scene, so
But also, that's right after they tried to escape and they were found together. They're just like, oh, yeah, check out now. We're throwing him in the hole. I mean, she could have been held in a different detention, but that was his fantasy of her having a 3 second sex scene with him.
Well, I
Like,
mean, they allow conjugal visits at prison, but if you're in isolation, I don't think that
You're going to get a
applies.
Yeah, you're not going to get a visitor in isolation
Yeah,
Eh,
because
That was
the reason
barely a
that
conjugal visit, by the way. It was like inserting a USB the wrong way twice. He finally
well,
just said, "Can you do it for me?"
but again, that's why that blurs the line between fantasy and reality right there. That may have been the only scene where the line was blurred because she wouldn't have told him that if she hadn't actually, you know, conjugally visited him. But at the same time, did he make that part up and the when she visited him too?
he really batting 1,000 the first time he does that with a lady immediately pregnant.
I mean, it happens.
I mean,
Well,
it
I
is
know
the superhero
JD
world.
from Scrubs. JD from Scrubs got a girl pregnant and he didn't even yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I know you're still sore about that. Your best friend.
No. I was Turk one Halloween. That's another one we can use. But anywho,
That kind of showed us who she was really in it for was when she brought the makeup, put the makeup on him first. That kind of showed you who she was in it for.
Yeah, but
like she was totally infatuated with the Joker. She didn't care about our third.
Right.
That scene could have been not in the movie, and I'd have been just as happy too.
Yeah, I don't think that
That was
scene,
one that was not needed.
it was not needed at all.
That's what
I
she
was going
said.
to ask y'all about Arkham itself because I feel like that was a major player in this movie. What y'all think of it?
Actually, honestly, to me, I think Arkham played a bigger role, even though it was smaller in the first movie than it does here, even though he's actually here. Just because it was more of just a place that was
yeah,
holding him. And again, the comic book fan in me at Arkham, like when everyone's rioting and cheering with him and all that stuff, I thought that was going to be his Joker army. And then when it turned out not to be his army, it was just, they were literally crazy people. And then that one little Joe got him, and that was it. I was kind of let down, but I have to admit, at that point, my expectations were okay. This is his army. They're gonna help him escape, and they didn't. That let me down. But also, like I was saying, shit, that's because I expected that. So my bad on that.
Now, I thought the guy in the back smiling the whole time. For some reason, I was thinking it was going to be Victor's ass, and he killed him and put him to an end. I don't know why I was thinking. And I thought when he took the knife, he was going to carve another like tally in himself. So I don't know, just
See,
something about him. I thought he was going to be Zaz.
again, that was the comic book fan in you thinking,
Yeah,
who else can we see? At the beginning of the scene where that big black dude was getting taken out somewhere, I thought that was going to be Waylon Jones, Killer Croc somewhere, but it wasn't. And again, that was me expecting that to happen, and that didn't happen, and I was let down again. But again, my bad because I
but
should
then they
have.
seasoned a little bit of Harvey Dent in there for us.
yeah. He looks way too young to be the city's Commonwealth attorney. It's like, did you and you're
Assistant.
Which I completely agree with that, but because I think for that aspect of this, that was them giving the DC fans what they kind of deserve, I guess, but not really. Because young Harvey Dent, and then he becomes Two-Face. That Joker that was younger than Arthur Fleck becoming the Joker, that gives them like maybe a decade to build and become crazy. 12-year-old Bruce is about to go to be 22 or whatever. He's training, so he comes back in. That's the only reason I thought that they made Harvey Dent look so young. And when Arthur Fleck died, that dude was much younger than he was. That's the only reason I thought that.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna if this sort of timeline goes into creating the next Joker, I think that's gonna might create an issue of like when a supervillain of the Joker comes around and be like, oh, he took inspiration from the guy who called himself Joker, so he's not really an original character. He's just carrying the mantle, which I don't really like.
Well, then you have
But again, we're not going to see a third movie for this, so that was just
But I'm saying
the
if there's
best way they could.
a movie that branches off from this timeline, I don't.
But they've established in mainstream DC continuity in comics that there's more than one Joker.
Yes, but they
They
weren't.
don't say one is the imposter, one is the starter. They never really say who
But
was the first one.
yeah, but when the first one popped up, they weren't like, "Hey, he's just like that old Joker." Like everyone thought it was the same Joker.
That's true.
And then
Well, who's to say that they're not going to think the new one is Arthur Fleck because no one knows that he died, and
Oh,
who's to even say that they're even going to tell anyone that he died? Because I'm actually thinking too when that guard was like, "Arthur, you got a visitor. Come on." He left him alone in that hallway for a damn long time.
Mhm.
Maybe he didn't even have a visitor. Maybe that was just him to. Oops,
That's what I'm saying.
that
Did Harley
happens.
have him set up, or was it the guards that had him set up?
It could have
Somebody
actually
had
been the
him set up.
guards.
also, if that happened, there would be a news report coming out like Arthur Fleck, who was convicted on murdering 6 people today, was brutally attacked and died on scene. That would be in that era of news. That would have happened.
I don't know. I like the way they portrayed Arkham in this, though. Like the facility itself, it felt like you were going to
A
mental.
crazy house.
Yeah, I mean, I like the ambiance of the movie and the setting. It was the story that was lacking.
It
It
was
was like
like
So
the rising balloon.
yeah, I left the movie again, really wanting to like it. Um, Again, just really quick, I think everybody that was in the movie portrayed the characters exactly the way the characters were written. I think they did an excellent job as actors and actresses in the movie. I just did not personally like the story of this movie.
I think it was like watching a train wreck that didn't need to happen.
Well, that takes us into another. Why are we making second movies for movies that do good?
Because they made $1
Like
billion the first go
it,
around.
but
If
it's
you
not a fan service. It's literally for the executive money hungry fucktards that are sitting behind a desk.
It's a
yeah,
cash grab.
Why do you think we have a new Dune that has a familiar face?
and if you're gonna make a sequel to a movie, make it cohesive and have a through line of like, oh, this matches the character, not having two mismatched puzzle pieces and then slamming them together and be like they fit. No, they don't.
And the character should have developed more from the first movie. I feel like he regressed.
Mm. But I think the biggest thing though, this is we see this all the time from Warner Brothers is like, hey, do you want this thing? Yeah, we want that. Well, guess what? Scrapped. Do you want this? Absolutely not. Well, you're gonna get that. Just like the animated Batman Beyond movie that was supposed to happen.
And the Batgirl movie.
Yeah.
I wanted to see that. Anyway,
I
Shazam,
did too.
Shazam 2 for me, because Shazam 1 was, I enjoyed it. I know it was not a great movie, but it did good enough to make a second. And then Shazam 2 was like, okay, you didn't really need to make this movie. Like, I like the character, I like this universe, I'm gonna watch it, but it fell short for me.
Oh, well,
Reggie.
I'll say these 3 points to summarize up everything that I said here. Joker, 2019 Joker, was a great movie by itself. We did not need this one, but since we got this one, the comic book fan in me still did not enjoy how it turned out, but the moviegoer in me was like, I see what you were trying to do. And if I'd went in this movie with no expectations, and as I was watching this movie, I had no expectations about what was going to lead to what, I would say this movie would be like a 9 out of 10 for me. 2, if Joker 2019 had not existed and just this one had existed, I would say that this was a damn good movie that was based off of DC characters, but not because of the characters they used and how they did not use them. as I guess to the point they could be used. But I mean, I could also argue based on the true story movie and how somebody's watching that is like, that's not how this happened. That's not how this character goes. But that's neither here nor there. Three, because they both exist, and the second one came out, and we watched it, and we see that this movie did not build on his character like they did in the first movie, and it was more of a, like I said, the best I can say is like it was a third person look into the world of his mentality and his mental illness. Good movie, but not the movie that should have been, because that's not what anyone was expecting, nor should they have gotten. As if they're going to call it a sequel, they should not have done this as a sequel.
So A for effort, F for execution.
That's what she said. Oh man.
My wife did not watch the first one at all, and she absolutely hated this movie.
Can you convince her to watch the first one just to see what she
I'm
would?
going to at some point, but she's so put off by superheroes at the moment, she don't want to watch any of it. So, but anyway, go watch it for yourself. Make your own judgments. We're not here to tell you one way or the other. We're just giving our opinions. I don't know that I would sit through it again, but if it was on a TV and I was in the room and it was playing, I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it. Let's just say it that way.
I'll tell you, don't watch it. Don't waste your time. Preserve the memory of Joker 1 in your mind to stay there in a pristine glass case, not to be soiled by Lady Gaga.
I mean, she
would say
That's what
watch
he
it.
said.
I would say watch it if you watch the first one just to see if you have a different opinion. Because obviously, we have at least one different opinion here with that truth.
And I would say watch it too. And if you could, and if you could afford it, watch it twice, because I might go see it again and try to shut my brain off and not look at it as a sequel or have my expectations deterred, which they were, and just look at it for what we got out of this one, not thinking about the first one. But that's obviously going to be hard to do since it's actually titled as a sequel.
but I don't know that I would pay for it again.
All right, bros. Is this modern day musical about a psychotic clown and a courtroom drama? Welcome addition to the musical realm. Is it a ha-ha land or is it a na-na land? As always, I'm Hokey Joker.
Ruby, Ruby, true.
Green Lantern.
Flash, man.
Till next time, guys.